Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's Tuesday night panel. And for those of you like me struggling with days of the week, I've trekked it several times. It's definitely Tuesday. So tonight, busy programme as usual. And we'll be looking back at what was a really enjoyable trip to Gloucestershire last night. Then we'll also cover not quite so enjoyable trip to Milton Keynes on Boxing Day, and look ahead to the Ian Holloway, Gareth Ainsworth reunion with the Gills visiting us on Thursday as well. So I'll bring the panel on. First of all, good evening, Vic.
Hello, Ray. How are you? You okay?
Yeah, all good.
Good,
Thank you very much.
Good.
You. Yeah. And good evening, Mark.
Evening,
Hi, Mark. Hiya.
Hi.
And good evening, Rob.
Hello.
He's a happy boy for what we shall say later, I think, probably.
One panellist we don't have this
Very
evening
happy. Very happy.
He's sat in Norfolk, Virginia Airport at the moment, waiting to travel over for his first taste of League Two football. So Gus will be with us shortly for the Gillingham game, but unfortunately not this evening. So in terms of guests, this is it at the moment. There may be a couple of others join him. So Vic, we'll make a start anyway.
Okay, thanks very much indeed, Ray. You stay there as well. I just thought I'd start with this, gentleman. This is the past calendar year and form in League Two. Top of the table, Swindon Town played 45 with 81 points. Then come Bromley, bizarrely, sort of juxtaposition from what they are at the moment in the league. They played 46, 77 points. And Chesterfield in third place, 74 points from 45 games. So quite a calendar year, I'd say, Rob.
Yeah, it's incredible when you think about it, really, isn't it? When we were just on that, just starting out our recovery, I guess, is probably the best way to describe it, come January, weren't we? We'd hit the nadir at the very start of December, started to pick up a couple of results over Christmas, and then really started to improve our position during that little run we had at the start of January, culminated in the big success at Carlisle, because we played an awful lot of teams at the bottom of the table, didn't we, in January? And that gave us the impetus to really kick on from then onwards, because we won all those crucial fixtures, and then obviously got ourselves comfortably into mid-table come the end of the season, and have just carried it on this year. And it's great to see us over a 12-month period put together what has been the best set of results of any team in the division. Obviously, calendar years count for nothing. We all know that, but it does give an indication, a true indication, I guess, of how good Swindon have been in this division over the last 12 months.
I think it also says, Mark, how good Bromley have been, because I don't know, are they the surprise package or not? I mean, they're top of the tree at the minute, but, you know, they're a pretty solid outfit by the look of it.
Yeah, you've got to give them great credit, haven't you? I mean, they've only been in the Football League, a couple of seasons, haven't they? And already, I think they had a pretty solid season last season, and then really kicked on this season. I think if you look at the form guide for the last probably 10 games, they're probably top, aren't they? You know, as well as being top of the league now, you know, their form over the last 9 or 10, when other teams have been beating each other, and our form has been good, but not spectacular. Their form has been excellent. Probably we're one of the few teams to have beaten them. I think they've only lost 4 all season out of 3. Yeah, it's pretty impressive stuff. But going back to what Rob was saying, that's fantastic, isn't it? That, you know, we've had such an impressive year, kicking on from the end of last season now to be in second place. And the other stat, of course, which you're probably all aware of, chaps, is that we haven't lost back-to-back games in any competition throughout the calendar year either. The first time in the club's history. So to give a great credit to the manager and to the players. When I came on last time, I said we're now a team of fighters, not the best team in the world, but a team of scrappers and a team of fighters. And that in itself gives you a really strong chance of doing something and being successful in this league, doesn't it? You know, the fact that you can really wear that shirt with pride and really scrap and fight for 90 minutes, or in last night's case, nearly 100 minutes. Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, Bromley have won 5 out of the last 6, so they're in pretty good form. So you know, they're not to be taken lightly. I think with that, Ray, it sort of reminded me last night of the win at Northampton back in 2020 when Jordan Lydon got the winner, and it was a crucial game. It turned out to be the last away game we would play that season, but it had that kind of feel last night.
Yeah, it really did, and you know, as Mark's just mentioned, that avoidance of back-to-back defeats, that was a tall order last night, actually, because Cottrell's done a really good job of turning them around, and they've been picking up results on a regular basis, and they were up for that. So that was never going to be easy. So I think that just capped off a remarkable stat, really, the fact they were able to go there and win last night. And so important to do it, because you say the importance of it, like the Northampton one, it is so important, I think, that, you know, for momentum, that you don't get onto a sticky 2 or 3 game losing run. And and it was a really good evening.
Yeah, it was indeed. Sean says my highlight would be that New Year's Day game, Colchester. That's where we really started to kickstart the run. More of the same come Thursday, please. And Kevin says, is the panel worried about the injured list getting bigger and lone player or players returning? Well, we will get on to that, because there was another one last night with Pal Glatzel as well. Right, let's go back to Boxing Day, whenever that was. Seems months ago now. MK Dons 1, Swindon Town 0. The goal on 17 minutes from Aaron Namane, or Namain, whichever way you want to say it. The attendance in that massive great stadium was 9,839. Swindon's lineup like this: 4-2-3-1, Ripley in goal, Wright, Knight Labelle, Tavazzoli, Munro, Nicholson, Kilkenny, McGregor, Oldacre and Glatzel, and then Bodin up front. A ball came on for Tavazzoli on 72, Palmer on for Munro on 21, who got a yellow. McGregor had Snowden replace him on 60 minutes. There was Tabor coming on for Oldacre. Oldacre got a yellow on 53, and Etchebitumen came on for Bowden on 72. Rob, it wasn't a great game. We seemed to win on stats that day, but unfortunately we didn't win on the important one, which was the single goal. Very poorly defended, I thought.
Yeah, frustrating, wasn't it? Because I didn't actually think that there was too much between the two sides, if I'm truly honest. I thought it was... There were a few chances at both ends, 2 good, really golden chances that Swindon squandered. One for Glatzel in the first half, one for Knight Labelle in the second. He had 2 bites of the cherry with that one, didn't he? But they really, when you actually boil it down, mostly both sides cancelled each other out, I thought. And there really wasn't that much in it. But of course, the crucial factor at the moment is, especially at this time of year, when you're going through a run of games very, very quick in succession, you really do want to get in front. If you get your noses in front, it really puts the opposition at a disadvantage. And Milton Keynes showed that, to be fair. They were very powerful defensively, and they pretty much nullified whatever threat we threw at them. And substitutions, for once, didn't help us. Normally they do, don't they? But we didn't seem to improve with substitutions. We didn't get any better. It was ultimately game, I think, but obviously with and us getting the Cheltenham, those 2 results nearly cancel each other.
Yeah, we got a bit of interference with you, Rob. I don't quite know what that is, but it's Mr. Halls, maybe. Are you still there, Rob?
I am still here. Yeah,
yeah, that's better. Yeah, sorry, you were saying cancelling each other out, etc. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, and I think it was ultimately we obviously wanted to get something from the game, but it's that old adage, isn't it? You say don't try and go unbeaten over Christmas, but if you get 2 draws, one at Milton Keynes and one at Cheltenham, but you want to lose one, you're actually 1 point better off.
Yeah.
So in many circumstances, actually, the going unbeaten is important, but you need to get those wins on the board, and the more wins you get, definitely is so much better than draws. Forget that Luke Williams 3 draws equals a win. Doesn't work for win 2, lose 1. That's a much better scenario.
Yeah, I think that's true, Mark, isn't it? And I know you weren't there last night, but you were there on Friday. What was your impression of that?
Yeah, I think I agree with Rob. I don't think there's an awful lot between the 2 teams. I think when we went there last season, and Holloway referred to it, didn't he, in his post-match interview? He said we were outplayed and outpassed by MK. I don't think we were on Boxing Day. I thought it was fairly even, apart from the goal that we conceded. It's quite interesting, isn't it? The only 2 goals we've conceded in the last 6 or 7 have been long-range strikes, haven't they? Archer, Cheltenham, and then Namain for MK. Could we have defended the Cheltenham Rocket differently? No, because it was just an absolute worldie. You just have to take your hat off to him and say, great strike. For Namain, he beat 3 players. He beat 2 who came in him quickly, and then he just sort of ghosted past. I think it might have been Kilkenny. I thought the 2 defenders could have come out more quickly to block the shot. We've been good at blocking shots lately, but not that one. And then I don't think Ripley had much chance once it went to the side of him. So, yeah, disappointing. did have those two chances, like Rob said. Glatzel should score for me. I think once that's created and you're in the middle of the 18-yard box, 12 yards out, you got to bury that chance really. And perhaps that goes back to being over reliant on Drinan a little bit. And Knight Lavelle, once he'd had the first header saved, I think the second one hit the side netting. Again, I think he should score that, and you probably come away with a one each. But you're right, what you're saying in terms of the much better to win 2 out of 3 than 3 draws or a win and a draw. Once we lost that at MK, I thought it was vital that we hit back last night. So it was fantastic to see us get the 3 points last night without doubt.
Yeah, Sean makes the point that 3 wins equals 9 draws. This is a fair point. Mr. Hawes, a very good evening to you. Yeah.
Hello. Yes.
Very good. It's very nice to see you. There are 2 things I want you to clear up, really, because in the away end, last night, we'll get onto that goal later, but that chance in the first half at Milton Keynes, we were in the away end, you're about 3 miles away from that far end. So just take us through it. You've disappeared off vision again. Are you still there?
I can carry on in audio only, which is
no bad thing. Anyway, aren't you? Let's be fair.
Well, no, it's just sort of beautifully kind of set up by Oldacre, sort of managing to tiptoe his way past a couple of players. He puts it in space. McGregor's, because the commentary position where we are is much closer to that penalty box than the away end. McGregor's clearly spotted Glatzel, and he, to be honest, he's just sort of crossed it perfectly for him. It feels like Glatzel makes kind of okay contact, not brilliant contact, but you have to pay some respect to the goal line clearance because it's sort of come up. It's about, I guess, sort of head height-ish for Saunders, but he just somehow manages to kind of twist his body, hit it onto the post, and get a bit of luck. So, but Glatzel still had to beat the man on the line, but it sort of feels so clear, that the ball's coming to him so early that you would hope he did better, but alas not.
We probably had a better view of the Knight Lavelle chance than you did. I mean, he had a header it came back to him, and it came back to him so quickly. I don't think he reacted very well. He put it in the side netting. What was your view of it?
Again, your view is definitely better than mine, but I think you could see the first chance and the block. I did get a sense. I thought the offside flag went up before the second one, but I could be proved wrong on that.
Interesting. Your overall impression of Milton Keynes, that performance?
I thought some of the kind of criticism I saw afterwards was a bit unwarranted. It did feel like a fairly tight game. I think you have to pay them some respect for the way they kind of bottled us up really when it was 1-0. It's very difficult to kind of pass through them the way they were set up, and then you can just launch it forward to Hepburn Murphy and his pace can cause chaos. And I think you've got to accept they've got probably like individual for individual, perhaps the best squad in the division. I'm pretty sure it's certainly the best paid squad in the division. So it was frustrating because you've had those 2 really big chances that you've talked about. I don't think I regarded it as quite the sort of reason for kind of general hanging of heads and despair that I saw afterwards.
Yeah, well, you know what it's like. Totally different to last night. You come away from that thinking, great, yeah, this is fabulous. You come away from Friday thinking, oh, that's it, then runs over, blah, 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 usual miserable reaction. The flag did go up, says Sean, for that. So there you go. You were right in your observation. Ray, what was your overall view of MK? I mean, part of you're looking at the stadium thinking, why is there nobody here? 9,000 people in it. It just looks empty, doesn't it? So what's your view of MK and that performance on Friday?
Yeah. In terms of the stadium, it's brilliant, isn't it? It really is a lovely stadium. It just doesn't sit, it doesn't fit with the club really. But no, I didn't come out of it feeling that negative really. I thought that we were on a par with them. I thought it was generally even, and I did think, looking at them, that some of their players did look very good. I thought as well. So you could see that they'd spent money. So. Yeah, I think a draw would have been a fair result, and that's kind of what I was half expecting, really. But no, I didn't think we let ourselves down particularly. I think not everybody had a great game. I think across the 2 games, several players had really good games. I thought Tom Nichols had a really good game at MK, and then followed it up with a solid game last night as well. But there's definitely and Knight Lavelle played quite well again as well. But yeah, I wasn't too down, but it was, you knew just how important last night was after the result, because the result is what keeps you up there, kind of thing.
Yeah, let's have a look. Great win last night, says Darren. Take stock, second in the league, third round of the FA Cup, quarterfinal of the EFL Cup. Not bad, is it? Best win of 2025. That's a tough one. Possibly last night, maybe after losing to them a few weeks ago, or Bolton at home in the FA Cup. Yeah, if you want to send in your memories of 2025, that's great. We'd love to hear them. Last night's performance is the best since Bolton at home in the FA Cup, says Darren. Monroe will stay for the season. We'll ask Mr. Hawes about all this a little later. MK Dons, Mark, you've kind of got to fancy them, haven't you? I mean, they have. Spending money never really has a great bearing on things, but you know they do look a decent side.
I don't fancy MK Dons at all in lots of ways, because I don't respect them as a football club, because it's franchise United as far as I'm concerned. Yes, they've spent a lot of money. Will they be up in the top 7? Yeah, almost certainly yes. They've got some players that are recovering from injury, haven't they, like us? What's the name of the guy who plays on the wing for them? Quite famous. I can't. Mendes Lang, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's possibly out for the season. I don't know, but yeah, they're a good side. I wasn't as impressed with them on Boxing Day as I was last season. I thought they were a better side last season, but that might have been because we gave them too much room, and we didn't give them too much room. And we're not conceding goals in the same way that we have done either last season or indeed, perhaps 10 games ago. We're looking much tighter. You've got to give people a lot of credit for that. Whether it means we've lost a bit of creative spark, on the other hand, is something that we need to be careful about. And that's where your set piece routines come in handy, don't they? If you can't score from open play, we scored last night from 2 corners. I mean, when did that happen last? Let alone 1 corner, it was 2. So, free kicks. What game was I watching this morning? West Brom and QPR briefly. All goals from set pieces, corners, free kicks. And they're going to be essential, aren't they, for us to score goals from in the remaining part of the season. So, yeah, MK sadly will be up there. I think we'll be up there. And I think the table is beginning to take shape if you look at the top 9, really.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, we've got a lot of tall players, haven't we? You can shove up for corners these days. It's not as if they've got a lot of short players. So, you're right with that. Free kicks and corners. So, at the end of MK Dons on Friday, Walsall were top with 43 points after 22 games. Then came Bromley, 42 from 22. Swindon dropped to 3rd, 40 from 22. And MK Dons moved up to 4th with 39 from 22. At that point, Cheltenham had played 22. They'd gone to 18th in the league, 27 points, minus 14 goal difference. That after a 3-1 home win over Shrewsbury on Boxing Day, Hakeem Aladelicum, Jake Bickerstaff and Isaac Hutchinson were the goals for Cheltenham. They kept calling them Robins last night, which is a bit... how many Robins are there on this pitch? Not right, is it? And then, so their form going into the Swindon game was 1 loss, 1 drawn, 1-1. So, Mr. Hawes, they were in a bit of form going into the match.
Yeah, they kind of picked up under Steve Cotterill. They weren't necessarily, I think, last night kind of showed. I didn't think they've really been creating a lot, perhaps up till the last kind of couple of wins they'd had that you mentioned, then that one against Shrewsbury and that one against Borough. But as we know from the return game, they were just pretty sort of organised, difficult to break down. So you did wonder how easy or tricky it was going to be to kind of get the goals to unlock them. And I think the wide players, Thomas and Adelakun, are among the better 2 in the division. So we mostly managed to shut them down. And as Mark was talking about, we unlocked them with the set pieces. So good win overall. Not the easiest place to play. Not through crowd intimidation, but just because they're quite difficult and organised already under Steve Cotterill.
Yeah, there was no worldie last night. There was one long range shot which sailed nice and happily over the top of the stand and into the car park, if I seem to remember. So there was no sort of shot which hit the back of the net like a proverbial rocket last night. A couple of highlights coming in, and I think we'd all agree with this. Bradford at home at the end of last season. Complete madness, yes. And that's from Ian, and Gary agrees with that. The Bradford game for me, the atmosphere, the way we came back, and to win it in the dying minutes. I don't think any of us will ever forget that. I'm sure Mr. Hawes' voice was completely gone at the end of it. Incredible game of football.
That was great fun. That was absolutely up there among the calendar year's entertainment.
Yeah, I think you draw that comparison with the last test that we've seen between Australia and England. Completely bonkers, probably. Absolutely mad and fabulous. Ray, what was your highlight? Can you think of any off the top of your head?
Yeah, that one does spring to mind as well, because I remember a guy was over from Austria and randomly had picked to come and see the game. I think he was in Swindon anyway with friends, but I remember his reaction to the game, and he'd recently seen the Manchester derby, and he was really enthused about our game, much better than the derby, he said. But yes, I remember that one. That was a brilliant game. I think the main thing is the amount of late wins that we got, where we were struggling, we came back and we run it right at the death. So although we've had this really good record in the calendar year, we've had to fight for a lot of it, which hopefully stands us in good stead for what's to come in the remainder of the season.
2 penalties against Wimbledon, I think, if I seem to remember. Is that right? When Tshimanga got 2 penalties in injury time. That was another crazy finish when Harry Smith turned left instead of right, didn't he? Went into the back instead of up the front, which we were all surprised about on that particular occasion. Any highlights for you, Mark? I mean, we go to every game and hopefully they're all going to be highlights, but there are lots of them.
Yeah, there have been lots of them, haven't there? And that's really good in itself to say that. And Bradford, of course, stands out. I took a friend of mine who's a recent Swindon Town convert, and he was absolutely over the moon with it. It's fantastic entertainment to be 2-0, 3-1, 4-3 down, and then win 5-4 with an injury time kind of own goal, wasn't it? If I remember rightly.
Yes.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. And Ray's right as well. The comeback wins have been superb. It started off, I think, if I remember rightly, maybe with a Colchester game in the Cup where we were 1 down and we won 2-1 in extra time. I think Tshimanga might have got the winner then. We beat them again in the league, I think, when we were 2-1 down and won 3-2. Then we beat Tranmere. I remember thinking that the Tranmere home game, I don't know if you all recall that, we were 1 down and probably going into about 87 thinking, oh God, we're going to be down here and we're going to be down against the Deadmen again. We won that 3-1 and it was incredible. We just seemed to chuck on about 6 strikers and you're looking around going, is there actually a defender on the pitch? And quite often there was about 1, wasn't there? Well, there's about 6 strikers, but it seemed to work. Perhaps the element of surprise last season undid teams, and perhaps they haven't been taken quite by such surprise this season. But still, lots of highlights. Just trying to think this season. Obviously, I went to Crewe. That was as good as the first half performance as I've seen from a Swindon team for quite some time. Bristol Rovers away springs to mind at 3-0. I missed the Bolton game, but that, by all accounts, was an excellent performance of 4-0. You got to look at last night as well. So they come in quite thick and fast, really. And now the trick, of course, is not to rest on your laurels. And I don't want to sound like a boring old fart when I say this, but you've got to kick on. You can't look at 2025 very successful. Yeah, great, it has been. We've won nothing. We need to kick on in 2026. We need to win a similar number of games. I think we've won 13 games out of the 23. If we win another 13 in the next 23 and draw another 4, how's my maths? Rubbish as usual, but that gives us about 86 points-ish, doesn't it? Something like that. And that's going to take us up. So that's what we've got to do. So great, brilliant, lads. Well done for 2025. Draw a line under that now. Move on. We need 2026 to happen and be just as good. And then hopefully, come May, we can be celebrating promotion, which is, after all, what we all want.
Oh, he's used the P word. There you go. That's that. No, you're right. And I think Ian Holloway's... I think Ian Holloway's made that point. We've won nothing yet. So we can't celebrate anything yet, although we were jumping up and down a lot yesterday. Yep. Let's have a look. More comments coming in. The real Robins win last night. Only discovered last night that Cheltenham used to have pigeons on their old crest. There you go. I didn't know that. Hi, Alistair. Can someone answer why this wasn't on Sky Sports Plus, as it was an evening game last night? I can't give you an answer. Maybe we'll get the media representative to talk about that in a minute. I don't know. Opinions on Palmer's goal? Interesting. I think since we got beaten by Cheltenham, we've been consistently good. And to get Clark back in time for the important games at the end of January all looks positive. Do we need to strengthen? Hi, Adrian. Evening, gents. Not only do we have one Liam Delap, we have two dangerous throws looking good. Yeah, we've got two long throws coming in. Hi, Jason. Andrew Hawes' commentary last night was comedic gold. His comment on Bristol Rovers' last win was around the time that men stopped wearing togas. Is that right, Mr. Hawes?
Yeah. Well, I think I'd heard they'd gone 2-0 down to Barnet, and it just kind of slipped out. It's like, well, you know how men always think of the Roman Empire apparently very often. That obviously came into play there for some reason. I don't know why.
Clearly, I don't know what sort of books you read, but it's very good. Right, let's get to last night then. I know you didn't go, Mark, but you're still welcome to take part in this. Cheltenham nil, Swindon Town 2. Aaron Drinan on 57 brackets, or was it closed brackets? And then Philadelphia Mabete with his first senior goal on 75 minutes. 0-0 at half time. 5,980 the attendance. Ripley in goal. Ball, Tavazzoli, Monroe. Nichols, central midfield. Glatzel, Kilkenny, Oldacre and McGregor. Palmer and Drinan. Right. The BBC, far be it from me to criticise my old employers, Andrew, but on the headline on the report, it says that McGregor got the goal. And in the report, it says Drinan. So I thought it was Drinan at the time. Who was it?
Well, this is interesting. I think because the kind of Opta who compile the stats initially have given it to McGregor, so that's why it comes up as McGregor. I think when you sort of see it from the press box, but in real time, there is a kind of sense that McGregor's head has gone over the line. But actually, when you look at the kind of videos back that people have taken from behind the goal, it does look very much more like Drinan's goal. So I don't know whether I'll get corrected or not, but I think that kind of explains the discrepancy, as it were. So I think we had this at I think we've got this at Carlisle last season, the goal right at the end where Will Wright puts in the corner and does Drinan get a touch on it. I think that I'm not sure that ever quite got corrected as Wright's goal when we thought it might have been Drinan at the time. So these things sometimes happen because we don't have the benefit of replays, and even the benefit of the replay from the one camera doesn't tell you much. I think not that I'm a Sky spokesman, so please take this on very unauthoritative grounds. I think the reason why that game wasn't on Sky is, I know it's a Monday night, but I think effectively it's a weekend game because the kind of the schedule sort of got shuffled across a bit for Christmas. So I think because they got the bank holidays, I don't know why I'm helping them. I think New Year's Day probably is, but I'm not sure Harrogate away is either. So please listen to your radios.
Yeah,
well, please do that anyway with TV, or if you would.
Well,
would be grateful.
Some of us will be there. It's a long way, but anyway. James says it was not on Sky Sports. The Sky deemed to be the day to be almost a bank holiday, and so they only had a small number of games available, as they would not have had. They would have had low staff numbers. There you go. That's another explanation, I suppose. It was very difficult to see where we were in the away end. We were at the sort of, as you would be looking at it, Andrew, in the far right-hand corner. And there were a lot of people standing up, so we didn't really have a very clear view of it. But there was also a question about offside. Now, when you look at that goal on a replay, sort of Drinan's on the goal line, if not behind it, when he comes back to head it. What was your view on that?
I don't think I was looking at that at the time. There certainly is no sign of the assistant either, from what I can remember, putting his flag up when McGregor had headed it in. So I think that's another indication it's Drinan's goal, but they didn't indicate. I mean, in among the chaos, and because you're sort of a bit low down, a bit far away, it's kind of very difficult to judge offside. But again, I don't think you really saw the kind of Cheltenham players get too wound up about it, other than just conceding. Perhaps if you had some kind of one of those kind of far angles that they use for the analysis, maybe that might tell you a different story. But I don't see anyone having chalked it off now, and it's a bit late to start doing so.
It is a bit late now. No,
get back to the centre circle, everyone. That counts.
Yeah, not even VAR would take this long, I don't think, would they? Rob, you kind of thought there might have been a suspicion of offside, didn't you? If I remember rightly at the time.
I didn't celebrate it, Vic. I thought it was an absolute goal to be ruled out. Got Drinan's in the net when McGregor heads it against the bar, and he comes back from inside the net to then head it in. there's absolutely no question in my mind he's offside because he's interfering with play. It's not even in question. But hey, that makes it even better that we beat Cheltenham with a goal that should have been ruled out. Even more.
Well, there was a goal that was ruled out, Ray. I mean, you were kind of further in the middle than we were. What was your view of the Palmer goal that never was?
Yeah, I didn't see anything wrong with it in real time, and I've only seen sort of footage from an angle that doesn't help you either. Judge whether it did actually hit his hand either, but it didn't strike me that it hit his hand, and it didn't look like Palmer was worried about it being ruled out initially either.
No, what was your view like? I mean, it was very difficult to see. We could see most of the pitch, but it was the crucial bit we couldn't really see very clearly. So what was your view of the McGregor/Drinan goal?
Yeah. I wasn't sure at the time, but I think Andrew mentioned the different angles from behind. Once you see it from behind, it's clearly Drinan's goal. But I wasn't sure at the time. I was pretty glad that somebody else actually made sure. So.
Yeah. I mean, it was a bit like Jeff Hurst's goal in the 1966 World Cup, Mark. If you had a Russian linesman, there would have been no problem, would there? That would have been it.
Yeah, no problem. Definitely onside. It was quite clear. And as far as Palmer's goal was concerned, yeah, that was clearly a goal. I don't know what they were talking about. So it should have been 3-0. Never mind 2-0. So anyway, we're just celebrating because it's great to see that we've beaten Cheltenham, and I have to say that's part of the reason why Swindon Town are still in this league. That, with the greatest respect to Cheltenham, we haven't beaten the likes of Cheltenham and Harrogate and Barnet and all those sorts of teams over the last 5 years. And now that we are, or starting to, it gives us every hope that this season can be ultimately successful. So yeah, it probably was, wasn't it? I mean, if Rob was there and I wasn't, and he said that Drinan was actually in the net, he's going to be offside, and VAR comes in and chalks away all that. Takes away that jubilation, which is why we hate VAR so much, because the spontaneity of football is ruined. And you start celebrating the goal, and then you go, "Hang on a minute, we've got to look at the screen. Oh God, he's offside." I mean, where's the fun in that? It's like a load of fun sponges have invented something, haven't they? And it takes away all that joy that you feel when you're celebrating a goal. It's awful, really.
Yeah, it must be. I mean, if you're a Premier League supporter and you're sitting in the ground and the ball goes in the net, you have to wait 5 minutes before you think it's a goal or not.
Was it a foul? Was it this? Was it that?
Yeah. Was his fingernail offside? Yes, it's ridiculous. Anyway, there we are. That's for them higher up to worry about, not us for the minute. Let's have a look. Watching Mabete celebrate after his goal was amazing. It meant so much to him, says Nick. BBC Points West tonight, highlights of us winning 2-0, but showed the second goal as Palmer's disallowed one. Okay. Thanks, Daz. Andrew's right about Sky deeming it as a Saturday fixture. It's the same for Harrogate, which I decided not to go to, thinking it would be on Sky, and it's not. Well, it's a long way to Harrogate, but I'm sure it'd be worthwhile. Nice little ground, I think. Expression says it all, Rob. Let's put it like this: the toilets in your way end are a little bit better than they were 2 or 3 years ago. I think that's probably. Actually, this is a point, right? And I'm going to say this. Adrian says, if he's in the net behind the line, how can he be offside?
Because he then comes back into the field of play to head the ball. So he's active. As soon as he comes back on the pitch, he's active. So that for me, it was a no-brainer. But then, as Mark said about VAR a few minutes ago, I think VAR would have allowed, wouldn't it? Because there was no hint of a handball from what I can see. So we might well have got that one instead, but it doesn't matter. Bottom line, we've managed to get ourselves 3 points at Cheltenham, second time in 2 seasons, which is great. But more importantly, that stat that Mark read out at the start of the programme about not losing 2 games in a row all through the calendar year, that just shows the bounce back ability of this team, doesn't it? And the real nature of what Ian Holloway has built as far as this team is concerned. We wanted a team that could epitomise the badge once again and fight for our success in this division. And I think we've clearly seen over the last month, when it's got really, really tough with injuries and suspensions, and the injuries to a lot of our creative players is also a key thing, which is probably the reason our goals scored has gone down significantly. I think what we really need to do in that time is make sure that we are defensively watertight, and what is it, six clean sheets in 8 now, or something along those lines. It's
this is great. Yeah,
fantastic. And we only lost 1-0 at MK, which, generally speaking, if you can see one goal, you pretty much hope that you'll get one yourself. So we really are. We really have shorn ourselves up at the back at the time we really needed to, when our creativity and our attacking threat is not quite what it was. Hopefully, the January window will help us there. But it's going to be, you fancy there's going to be an awful lot of games that are going to be quite tight now. And that's what makes it really important that we keep ourselves defensively solid.
Andrew, we were discussing before we started about the schedules. I mean, you will know this. I mean, you know, my days as a commentator, goodness me, it was non-stop. And I'm sure you'll find that. You found it, I'm sure. But there's a lot of strain on players, isn't it? And is there time for the authorities to think 4 games in the space of, I don't know, 9 days is a bit ridiculous? I mean, it just seemed too much somehow.
I think from a player's point of view, and we had kind of Sean Morris on last night who just talked about this. It feels like there's probably one too many games, and it's so in a sense it's a little bit like Monday. You know, last night, much as we enjoyed it, it's sort of the game too many by the time you get to Sunday. I think there are kind of various stats saying by the 4th game players simply just can't run as far and recover as far. So it's sort of where your kind of squad depth counts. Is there an argument for doing kind of Saturday before Christmas, then Boxing Day, then New Year's Day, and then sort of having it kind of 4 games over that sort of 10 or 14 days? Perhaps there is, but and I suppose the other thing about this one is it feels a little biased towards the teams who've got the 2 home games, because the teams that have had the home games on Boxing Day also got the home game on the 29th, which seems a bit strange, really. That and we've got to go to Harrogate as well. Like 3 of these 4 sort of games packed into 10 days are also travel games. So I don't think that's particularly well designed either.
We saw Glatzel go off with an injury last night. It's a hamstring, isn't it? I think it looked like.
Yeah, anyway. They suspected so. I mean, we'll find out. There's a sort of a pre kind of game Gillingham conversation to be had tomorrow, so I suspect we'll find out more about that. But the worries he's had back in his sort of earlier part of his career, where he did have a lot of injuries. I think he had quite a bad hamstring injury when he was at Tranmere for a spell. So we hope it's not like that. But he looked quite distressed coming off. So we may have to brace ourselves for another fairly long-term absentee. I fear, but I don't know. We'll know.
He's a runner as well, isn't he? Over a short space of time, he's got quite a bit of speed. So if you've got a hamstring problem, that is a real bugbear for you, isn't it? Because he can turn a speed, can't he?
Yeah. No. He's certainly a willing sort of runner, especially when you ask him to go into those wide positions like we did last night and get up and down and do a bit of defending as well. So again, a player with I know people don't love his goal scoring record, but there's a lot of versatility in him that we've taken advantage of so far during the season. Yeah,
and Mr. Holloway used a word that he was a little uncomfortable in using to you last night. He apologised to Joe from the Evening Advertiser, which I didn't quite get. We should have apologised to you.
Well, Joe was there, so Joe catches the stray bullets.
But to put it kindly, 1 or 2 of the players had stomach problems. Is that right?
Yes, I believe so. I think Monroe was one, which was why he kind of came off after an hour. So when you add that to the injuries, Knight-Lebel apparently saying that he was kind of exhausted beforehand, so almost kind of asked to be rested, I think, which seems quite mature in one way and quite modern in another. So when you put all that together, they've done really well to kind of stick a team out there with a bit of improvisation to it, get nail down the different jobs they want to do and come away with a win.
Tavazoli and Ball getting through the games, which is going to be a bonus as well. Ray, I mean, I don't. It wasn't a pretty game, was it? They did have a lot of possession, Cheltenham. I think looking at the stats, they had 56.2%. Swindon had 43.8%. But hey, who cares? We won 2-0. But it wasn't what you call rip-roaring game of football, was it? But it was one you dug in and you got the points.
Yeah, it was. I think the sort of the jeopardy came from us all knowing what run they've been on It wasn't for their performance on the night, I didn't think. And yeah, they did have a bit of possession, but quite a bit of that was back towards their own half, where we were pretty organised and they were having to go back a few times. So no, I didn't think they did look great, but you were just worried all the time based on their form, really, and the fact that the turnaround that's happened there, really.
Yeah. Here's a point which is Gary's making. I hope the bigger gates start to come in the new year to make the county ground a fortress and help us cross the line. What do you say about that, Ray? I mean, it would be nice to see people come in on big numbers on Good News Day. Gillingham will bring a few, won't they? Because of the history between the two clubs. It should be a really big gate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they deserve it, don't they? Let's be honest with the last year's sort of performances and results. So hopefully it'll be up a bit again. Obviously, the away support is looking good at the moment, but we do need bigger numbers at home, and I think the team deserve that. And I think picking up on the point, that extra backing might well prove vital as well, because it's not going to be many sort of entertaining games at home, I don't think. Most sides are going to try and sort of contain us and make it difficult. And I think Scott Lindsay talked about trying to get the crowd to turn, didn't he, in his pre-match? And so I think that'll be a pattern that we see. So it does need the crowd support and the patience, really, to allow us to sort of get the number of points at home that we need.
Yeah, we're not going to have rip-roaring performances as much as we'd like to see them. Mark, grinding out 1-0s, take the 3 points, thanks very much. That's, you've got to say that, haven't you, really?
I've said when I came on last, Vic, they're wars of attrition, aren't they, these games? That's how I described them, and if you think back to the wins we've had at home recently, Tranmere was decided by a 25-yard thunderbolt from Monroe. Penalty won the game against Crawley from Palmer. Just got to scrap it out, as Ray rightly said. You got to tough it out. That's why, again, I come back to set pieces. Make the most of set pieces. Make sure your delivery is good. Make sure every delivery is on the money, rather than you have 8 corners and 6 of them don't beat the first man. So and going back to your point, Vic, about the gate. I totally agree. I'd be very disappointed if we didn't get 10,000 on New Year's Day, because I think the team deserves it. Never mind what you think about what's going on off the pitch. I've made my views on that clear. They haven't changed. But on the pitch, we've got to give every credit both to Ian Holloway as a manager and also the players. They've dug in and done fantastically well. So now is the time to back them in numbers. That in itself creates extra revenue for the football club, doesn't it? They can go out and perhaps get in a couple of loan players, because we all know that with the injury list that we've got and with the suspensions as well, particularly Clark, we are going to need to strengthen. We're definitely going to need 2 or 3 players to get us through and over the line come May. So now's the time. We're still in second in the league, still in 2 cup competitions. That generates revenue too. Winning the 3rd round in itself gives us 120,000. It's decent money on top of what we've already earned from being in the 3rd round. So, come on, Mr. Chairman, dig your hands in your pockets and let's get a bit of help. Get the cavalry coming and get 2 or 3 players to help Holloway and the players get through and over the line come May.
Well, let's have a look at that league table. Bromley atop, 45 points from 23 games with a goal difference of 14. Swindon's second because they've scored more goals than Walsall. 43 points from 23 games, goal difference of 11. Walsall have the same after 23 games, but they've dropped to 3rd place. Gillingham are 11th in the table. They've played 23. They've got 32 points, 5 goal difference. Their last game was against Colchester last night. Gillingham won, Colchester won. Robbie McKenzie with the goal. Johnny Williams and Hutton, of course, will be visiting us on New Year's Day. Their form recently, 3 draws, a loss, and then 2 draws. So they're not in great form. 2 players I'm going to mention to you, Rob. Joel McGregor, who I thought was as good as he was against Bolton last night. I thought he was magnificent. And your mate, Big Phil, who came on and flicked that ball home from the corner kick, much to his delight and to yours, because I know you like him very much as a player. And he just looks the part, doesn't he?
He's fabulous. And he's just what you want to see, because he's got that enthusiasm that not necessarily you expect to see from a centre-half. Maybe a little bit further up the pitch, you tend to see that rather than a centre-back. But you can't help but smile when you see him play. He's just one of those players that just does the unexpected. Sometimes it can frighten you defensively as well, let's be honest, but he does seem to appear in some strange places and get himself out of trouble no end of times. And when you can add to that the fact that he can come up for set pieces and get on the end of them and look so pleased. I've never seen anyone celebrate a goal quite as long and hard as Mbete did last night. It was fabulous to watch. And it just goes to show again, because everyone was round him, wasn't it? It's that togetherness we've spoken about several times in different ways. Yet everyone was delighted for him, not just the support, obviously the result, but the whole team were over there with him and wanted to celebrate with him, which is exactly what you need to see. But you're right about Joel McGregor. I mean, there's been a couple of times since he's made his recovery from injury where you just think, hang on a minute, he's not quite there yet, is he, Joel? It's not quite happening for him. And then he's put in a couple of absolutely brilliant performances. That one against Bolton, because you mentioned highlights of the season so far. For me, that was our most complete performance. We've had games where we've been more entertained, but that was our most complete performance because we took apart a team who are probably, if they're not going to go up, they're going to go very close in League One this season. And we just took them to the cleaners that day. And McGregor's part in that, again, the current best form player in League One in Kozia Dubry, was just outstanding. I thought it was fantastic that night. And last night was a repeat performance, wasn't it? It was it really was just about everywhere. And I hope the goal does get credited to him. I'm not convinced that it actually went over the line. I haven't seen it a couple of times now. But I hope he does keep it because it's a brilliant statistic to have, isn't it, in your armoury as a fullback. You don't necessarily get forward that often, but scored consecutively away from home at the same ground in a local derby in winning performances. That happens very, very rarely to any player, let alone a striker, let alone a fullback. Usually a striker, you'd mention that too. So yeah, all credit to him. I think he's still got work to do, Joel, to get that consistent level of performance. But he's well on the track now. And if he can keep himself free of injury, I think that will be key for him because injury really did blight his performances at the back end of last season, didn't it? And I think it took him a while to overcome them this year as well. But hopefully now he's got that those extra games in the tank, and he's just going to go from strength to strength.
Yeah, we forget he's a young player. Of course, he's only been in just over a full season, really, when you think about it, isn't he? He came in the back end of the season before last, if I remember rightly, and then most of last season.
One of the things you've hit on a really good point there because a lot of this team is still very young.
Yeah, it is.
Game, the Snowdens, the Monroes of this world, and people like that who are starting to mature really, really well into really bright, good football players. And there's several of them spread around the team, but we do have that backbone of experience, which is what we lacked last year. We had good young players last year, but not necessarily a backbone of experience to go with it. But the signing of Tafazoli, Clark, those type of players are the most important players to bring those young players on. You don't just want to throw 11 young players in together because it won't work. You do want to have that blend of experience and youth, and we've got that this year.
Yeah. Right, Mr. Hall, as we know, the transfer window is about to open. I think is it Monday? It opens.
I believe so. It'll be soon enough. It'll be soon enough.
Yes. So I know you'll ask this question repeatedly over the next month, and you'll get fed up with asking it, and Mr. Holloway will get fed up with it being asked. But what evidence do we have at the moment? I mean, I was talking about it a little bit last night. Obviously, reinforcements are needed. Players may return, of course. We don't know. So what is your reading of it at the moment?
I think the thing you said before the kind of game last night is it will probably be loans. Generally, I'm tempting fate here a bit, but at the moment there doesn't seem to be as much concern about Monroe going back as is traditional for an Aston Villa loan player. Let's put it like that because I think they quite like sort of putting them out and sending them back. So I can't say that won't happen, but there's not. But the good news is that there's not so much a kind of level of anxiety about that. What we'll hopefully find out a bit more again tomorrow is if Glatz is long term, whether that kind of pushes them towards getting maybe a kind of two players in one, maybe a bit of a sort of wide forward who can kind of do some of the wing back work. But they've talked a lot about kind of getting someone in who's, you know, a more direct player who can, you know, kind of run up players and take players on in the way Danny Butterworth does. And, you know, he's going to be out for a long time still. So I think that's kind of priority. I suspect we're a bit at the mercy of Southampton as to what happens with Batraman, whether they think they can find him alone where he'll see more time, or whether they're kind of happy for him to stay or not, and how they look at that. But you know, sending him back, I suspect, doesn't free up a big chunk of budget particularly. So I think those are the kind of things they're juggling around at the moment anyway.
And what about injuries? Wilson Brown obviously has been back at Leicester getting treatment. What do we know about him? Is he close to coming back?
I'm not quite sure. I don't think he's too far away. I think by the sounds of it, and that's good news, because I think he was kind of getting on very quietly and very efficiently with his job at the back. I really kind of liked his performances. I couldn't say quite when he's due back. I think they're quite hopeful that, you know, he can come in and add to the numbers, and that will not only be good in terms of, you know, getting another player back, but it probably allows, you know, maybe Ball or perhaps Wright to play a little bit of central midfield if he does, because you know, with Clark out for a bit, Nichols is, you know, going through lots of 90 minutes at the age of 32 and running around a lot. So if you could release one of those two to play, you know, perhaps in midfield, the odd start here and there, that would probably help share the minutes round there as well, because, you know, Kilkenny and Nichols in particular, you know, they're on fairly sort of heavy usage, if you like.
Yeah, Sean says we've inquired about a player from Watford for loan. I guess there are lots of inquiries going on at the minute, aren't there? I mean, phone calls will be happening all over the shop, and people will be ringing Mr. Holloway's phone, I would imagine. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, you've got a busy time ahead of you, haven't you? And you will ask that question, I'm sure, after every game. Is there anyone?
Well, at some point before, after, maybe during. It does dominate the discourse for better or worse, really. But with the kind of squad as it is, I think they would like to make one or two tweaks here and there. But I don't know how much room there is for a kind of big, high-profile signing, as it were.
Ray, where do you stand on this? I mean, obviously they do need strengthening. Clark is out. Just quickly, Andrew, they're not appealing against Clark, I assume, or are they? Are they leaving?
No, I don't think. I don't think. I think they've got I think they've kind of swallowed the punishment pretty unhappily, so to speak. But I think that's it's where it is, and you know, the one consolation of it being at this time of the year is you do kind of whiz through the 7 games rather than him having, like, you know, saying almost kind of 2 months out, which would clearly hit his fitness and sharpness. It's not so bad this way, I guess.
No. So Ray, where do you stand on it? What we should do and what we shouldn't do, etc.
Yeah, I do think the midfield bit's quite pivotal. Really, we haven't, like as you say, we are pushing a couple of players really hard in there. We need a little bit, whether it's, I don't know how far off of fitness Murphy is, for example, but we haven't got enough cover there, I don't think, at the moment. And the Southampton one with Princewell, I think that's is in their hands, but I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world if we had to rotate a forward-thinking loanee and get another one in. I think that might actually help us if that happened. No disrespect to Princewell, he's obviously a young player, but I don't think we would lose dramatically in that one. As I say, the Finley Munro one's the one that would hurt us. And we've had to adapt without Wilson Brown, and he's been he was excellent before he got injured, and we have adapted. I mean, that's a good thing really about this defensive capabilities have come despite changes in personnel. We've had to change personnel and still managed to keep a reasonably tight back line, which has been really good.
Yeah.
So midfield for me, Vic, I think is key, and I wouldn't be averse to a change up front, really.
Yeah. Mark says, why is Clark out for so many games? I know the FA passed punishment, but it's Football Association. You'd have to ask them, really. Simple as that. Mark, where do you sit on this? I think, I think Clark's not there when you start to miss him. Do you see the point I'm making? Sometimes in games you don't necessarily notice him, but when he's not there, you do.
Yeah, I said before, we definitely need to strengthen, and it's really midfield, as Ray rightly states, is the key area because we are extremely light in there. I mean, if you take Kilkenny and Nichols out, I like Old Acre when he's got the ball and he's running along, but perhaps it's not going to be the guy who wins possession back and tracks back on a 70-yard run.
No.
He's going to float around and play some nice passes and then perhaps score the occasional goal. So fair play. I'm not going to be overly critical of him. Clark's miss is huge. So James McLean gets 3-game ban for standing on someone's head in the Swansea game. And what's Clark done? I mean, the silence has been deafening. I think all fans would like to know, because all you do when you don't know is you speculate. Was it something racist? Was it homophobic? Was it an off the ball incident? We don't know. And he's got 7 games. 7 games is pretty unprecedented. So obviously somebody knows. Holloway must know, I guess. But whether they just want to keep it from the fans, I'm not really sure. But he's a big miss because he's a real winner, is Ollie Clark. He's a real aggressive character, but aggressive in the right way. And we don't have that kind of player. Obviously, with off the ball last season, we did, but he went to Barnet. That, in my view, was a mistake because it didn't further his career. But that's on him, not on anybody else. And we still need that tough tackling midfield player to win the ball back and give it simple. And we still need a pacey wide player. And a Batchman, I don't know. I saw a player at Cardiff who looked like he could set the world on fire. He was running past defenders for fun. He scored a great goal and could have had another one. Since then, I don't know what I see. Like Ray, I'm not going to be overly critical of a young lad because he is a young lad. He's learning his trade. He's away from home, presumably. But, you want more of an impact from a lad like him when he comes on, even at 20. You want him to run past players and look as if he's got the confidence to do so. And that's not the case. And it hasn't been the case now for a good month or so. So probably most fans would say that they'd be happy for him to return unless he can discover some of the early season form and promise that he showed early on, because we can't carry people. We cannot carry people in what is becoming a thinner squad. Everybody's got to step up in the way that, certain other people have, like John McGregor, who was mentioned early on. In terms of cover, I don't know, Andrew, if Andrew knows anything about Kirkman, because a great little player there, Billy Kirkman, and he hasn't been around for a long time. And he'd provide that cover on the left-hand side, which we're lacking. So I don't know whether he's any closer to returning. But we must strengthen. It's absolutely imperative that we do 2 or 3 players.
So Kirkman and Andrew, what do you know?
I think they were hopeful a couple of weeks ago he's going to get back into training, but that seems to have tailed off. This is a terrible excuse. It's quite difficult to pin the manager down sometimes on injuries because essentially he says in a reasonably nice way, if they're not really in his immediate kind of first team plans, he sort of, he's more figuring out what he can do with what he got, and then he gets the medical team to say, oh, he's back, he's ready. So I think the Kirkman thing has slowed down a little bit. I'm not quite sure why, I must admit.
Fair enough. Rob, midfield I think is definitely the popular choice for strengthening. Up front, wide, where do you think we need?
I mean, first and foremost, we do definitely need 2 central midfield players, in my mind. You need to have direct replacements for Nichols and Kilkenny, who cannot keep going through the work rate that they are going through. Murphy was supposed to be one of those from City, wasn't he? And we've seen him kick a ball in a Town shirt. So if we talk about lone players who've had an impact and who haven't, he's the one who's probably had the least impact. So potentially you send him back and try and think of someone else, would be my thoughts. But you've got to get 2, especially if you want to think that the workload for the rest of the season isn't going to reduce in that central area, and I can't see it reducing. You've got to be able to give Kilkenny and Nichols a break. We just hope that they don't ping something between now and the time that the transfer window starts, because I think we really would be very light in there. The young lad Gonzalez came on and did okay for a couple of minutes, but you certainly can't rely on him being a 90-minute player to carry the can for now. And with Clark's suspension still with 2 or 3 weeks to run, then we are very, very light in that area. But with Glatzel and Butterworth and Amin early in the season going to Norwich, we have no runners at players anymore. And that is absolutely critical in this division. That when you look back to the the comebacks of the early part of the second half of last season, they were almost all instigated by Ian Holloway throwing the kitchen sink at the opposition, throwing a whole load of different forward type players on. And if you can think of one reason at the moment why the goals have started to dry up a little bit, we're very samey now with the players that we've got. We don't have that invention. We don't have that spark from a player who will run at teams. And I think personally, we need two of those. We need one down both sides. So again, you can give the break to both, to Drinan if you need to Palmer because they can't play all the games. It's that sort of theory. You've got to try and make sure that you have got enough players to be able to give yourself enough options. And at the moment, Ian Holloway is working miracles with a very, very threadbare squad, I think. And it's not because he hasn't got players. He's got lots of players, but he's got lots of players out. I can almost name a team that didn't play last night, which says a lot. You can't carry that at League Two level. So you've got to do some business in January. And if it has to be loan players, it has to be loan players. But I think you've got to find more effective loan players in a couple of positions than what we've currently got. Batchman was mentioned. Murphy, obviously, I've mentioned. If Wilson Brown's not immediately ready, he's potentially one as well. You've got to find players in those loan areas who are going to give you another 20 games for the rest of the season.
Yeah, if you remember the players he used to bring on, I mean, Joe Wesley was one, wasn't he? He'd come on and make a difference. Glatzel would come on late on, wouldn't he? They were what you call his finishers, Andrew, and they did come on and make a real difference. And you kind of thought when they did come on, the defenders of the opposition must have been terrified, thinking, God, look at this pace that's coming on now.
Yeah, well, that's one of the real kind of the kind of things we do to try and win games. It would very much be, you can add that extra forwards, you can add extra players who add an impact at 65, 70 minutes, especially at home when it's 0-0. And I think I'm with Rob, that kind of direct runner who can inject something unpredictable into a game is certainly, I would hope and I think, on the shopping list.
Yes. I see Offerball played for Barnet last night. I think they won. So he's in the Barnet team. So I would have loved him to stay to Swindon. I must admit, he was. Rob, you and I have discussed him many times, haven't we? Thought, wow, he's the player you want in your team. Offerball, he was great. But anyway, he decided to wait on and ended up at Barnet. So there we are. Jake Tabor's been mentioned here by Ian. Will run at players, but perhaps not good enough. Comes on though, runs around, hassles people. You kind of like that when a player comes late on. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. We're looking forward to Gillingham on Thursday. We will be joined by Gus from the United States of America, who just over a year ago, Boxing Day of 2024, watched Swindon on the telly and decided that was going to be his team. And he's been a proud member of our panel ever since. And he and his family are visiting us over the new year and will be present at the Gillingham game on Thursday. We're very much looking forward to seeing him. It's amazing, Ray. He's picked up so much knowledge about football. He probably knows more than most of us, to be honest, the way he talks about it. It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And at least he's been watching it, so he's not expecting something that he's not actually going to see. So, it'd be good to meet him as well.
Yeah, it'd be very nice to see him there. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. And thank you very much indeed for watching us at the course of 2025. We'll be back, I think, on Monday, post that long journey up to Harrogate, snow permitting. And we'll see you then. Mr. Horse, thank you very much indeed for all the work that you do as well, because I know interviewing managers after football matches sometimes is not the easiest job in the world. So, you have to be really careful how you approach it. Is he all right? Is he, do you know when he's in a prickly mood, or have you gauged?
Well, let's be honest. Usually, if he's been booked after a game, he's pretty livid about that. So it's kind of once you take him off that mountain, like last night, then he's fine. He's all right. Actually, I know he can occasionally sound frustrated, but he is very kind of emotional after games and wound up. So you kind of need to let him sometimes kind of decompress a bit, as it were.
Well, he had a very nice coat and a hat on last night. I thought he looked, very warm.
I don't know if you heard the Cottrell interview, Andrew's counterpart, I guess it's Radio Gloucester, he had a very prickly interview
Yes.
with him last night. Yeah.
I don't think he will be the first or the last person to have had a prickly interview with Steve Cottrell. He can, I think he can be hard to deal with at times. But then, given how well he does for Cheltenham, people will be quite happy to be on his side if he gives some back to the interviewer, I suspect.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much indeed, all, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Mark, for dealing with the questions as well. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
Yeah.